From the patient files of Dr. William Wickman, director of Hillbrook Insane Asylum. Patient number 966, Roland Gorman, aka Tek Eld Zaar. Session 1. Patient suffers from severe delusions, delusions of grandeur, and narcissistic personality disorder. White male, age 38, blonde hair, blue eyes, 6 feet tall, 180 pounds. Observing patient 966 before entering the session room, he appeared to be completely calm. He sat with his back straight. He was still and not fidgeting around, like so many of our patients do. He even had a slight smile on his face. Not a manic smile or a gleeful smile, just a faint, subtle smile that indicated carefreeness and comfort. 966 was obviously not worried whatsoever about his situation. I entered. "Hello, Dr. Wickman," he said, before I could even introduce myself. "You know who I am," I said. He answered, "Of course," and that it was his business to know people of importance. In a normal situation, you would feel flattered by such a comment. Maybe you would even express that. I did not, and simply said nothing, sitting down by the table opposite the patient. Dealing with delusional people, you never play into their delusions. I placed 966's file on the table and began flipping through it. It was a very thick folder, thicker than most patient folders. Endless information about the Zaar cult. The cult the patient is the leader of. I hadn't even had time to read it all of their activities dating back to 2004 when they were founded. Most of it was fairly minor anyway. Flipping through it right now. Disturbances, weird rituals, complaints, damage of property. Anyway, the Zaar cult didn't truly come into public notice until their most recent act. The act that got them classified as a terrorist group. 6 months ago, 966 sent 10 of his followers armed to the teeth with assault rifles and shotguns to the Saxon Corporation building. These 10 Zaar cult members then proceeded to open fire upon any Saxon employees they could find. 41 died as a result, while 17 were injured. 3 police officers died as well, while 7 were injured. In the end, the police managed to take out 8 of the cult members. For unknown reasons, the remaining 2 chose to commit suicide. 54 people dead, and all of that in the name of Tek Eld Zaar. That is the name the patient prefers, his real name according to him. "Do you know why you are here?" I asked the patient. He looked at me with a confident calm. "Because I've been declared insane," he answered. "And are you insane, Roland?" The patient scoffed. "Of course not. And please, call me Tek." "Tek Eld Zaar," I repeated. "You claim that to be your real name. How is that?" "It was my name given to me by my real parents, on my home planet." "Ah yes, your home planet. Zaar, is that correct?" "That is correct," he answered, with a playful look on his face. "You're trying to play games with me, doctor," he said. "Mind games. Trying to get into my head, eh? Find out what makes me tick. Well, go on ahead. I'll find it rather amusing." "No mind games here, Roland," I said, simply trying to help you. His face turned a bit serious for a second. "Tek," he insisted. I simply would not call him that, though. As I said, the last thing you should do is play along with the patient's delusions. Don't argue with them either, though. Never call a patient stupid or crazy. I hope you all know that. Instead, try to help the patient see the flaws and holes in their delusion. That is the only way to combat it. "You claim to be an alien, an extraterrestrial from the planet Zaar," I said. "I am, yes," he answered, smiling again. "Then what are you doing here, on planet Earth?" I asked. His face lit up a bit. Narcissists love talking about themselves, after all. "He was sent here by his parents," the patient said. "Sent here as a baby. His purpose was to live among humans and slowly build up a following, convince us humans of the existence and righteousness of the Rysarian race." The patient then went on a tangent about how we humans have defiled our planet, destroyed it beyond repair with our pollution and wars. "It's a dying planet," he said. "The human race will die with it. All except the ones who submit to him, Tek Eld Zaar. The ones who thus chooses to worship him as their messiah will be allowed refuge on Rysar." "How will we all get to Rysar?" I asked. "You don't have a spaceship, do you?" The patient laughed, a bemused laugh. He obviously saw me as inferior. After all, I am just a mere human being. "On the 22nd of February 2022, he said, "a Rysarian mothership will arrive on Earth. This mothership will be sent to pick him up, his mission being complete. Every person who's joined the Rysar cult by then will be allowed to come along." This is of course textbook cultism. People who join and accept the leader as their messiah will somehow be saved by some doomsday threat. It's basically how all cults work. Usually they are religious in nature though. This alien aspect is a bit unique. However, it too does play out in a religious fashion. This Tek Eld Zaar personality is very comparable to Jesus Christ or Moses after all. And Rysar is comparable to heaven. Interestingly enough though, 966 files indicate no religious background whatsoever. "Pollution," I said. "That's why you attacked the Saxon Corporation?" The Saxon Corporation is known for their factories polluting lakes with toxic waste. The patient answered, "It's why we chose Saxon as our specific target, yes, but it wasn't the reason for our attack. We are very well aware that our attack did nothing to stop that corporation. It continues to go on like nothing had even happened, still pumping their waste onto nature." "Then why attack them?" I asked. "Notoriety," he matter-of-factly answered. "Before the attack, we had 200 members. Now we have over 2,000. I didn't doubt this. After all, I'm aware of all the fan mail 966 is receiving. Numerous marriage proposals too. As unbelievable as it may sound, there are many women out there who want to become the bride of Tek Eld Zaar. In fact," 966 continued, "I have already converted a handful of your patients, Dr. Wickman. They now live to serve Tek Eld Zaar in return for a seat on the mothership." I made no comment about that statement. It could very well have been a bluff to boost his narcissistic ego. However, it could also be true. After all, cults usually do attract the mentally ill. I'll have to investigate this matter. Find out who these supposed converts are. If they do indeed exist. "If you're an alien," I began, "how come you look human? I thought aliens were supposed to be green little men with antennas on their heads, or lanky gray-skinned creatures with oversized brains." The patient laughed again, bemused. He said my idea of aliens was very childish, but he also said this human appearance wasn't actually his true form. He'd only assumed it. Apparently humans can't comprehend what a Rysarian truly looks like. Our weak minds would break from the sight. The patient claimed he knew this from personal experience, as he had shown his true form once to one of his followers, his most devoted follower. He thought she was ready to see it, that she could handle it, but no, it only drove her mad. I asked what happened to her. but he said he'd rather not talk about it. She was his favorite, apparently, among his flock. I flipped through his files and found his birth certificate. Very interesting. You say you were born on a planet Rysar, I started. He nodded, bored, like he'd had enough of my questioning. Then how come you've got a birth certificate from Earth? That caught his attention. Roland Gorman, born in New Jersey in 1981. Parents Glenn and Diane Gorman. The patient stared at me. There wasn't much on his childhood in the files, but there was some. I read it aloud for him. His mother was a drug abuser and died from an overdose when he was 10. A few months later, his father committed suicide out of grief. Roland spent the rest of his adolescence in orphanages and foster homes. He was arrested for possession of narcotics in 1998. In 1999, it happened again. In 2001, he was arrested for breaking and entering. Lies, according to 966, though. He claims all of that is lies created by the government. The government apparently found him when he landed on Earth as a baby. They then took him to a top-secret lab and subjected him to experiments. He was finally able to escape when he was a teenager. The government covered all of this up though, including the fact he was an extraterrestrial, and supplied him with a fake background. Patient 966's delusion is very strong. He's got answers and explanations for everything, and he believes in them fanatically. More shockingly so does his followers. Our session eventually reached its end. Before I left the patient, he said, "Doctor, you must think of me as a monster, having all those people murdered. But that was a necessary evil. Like I said, after the attack, our numbers have grown exponentially. The more people I can save from this planet's doom, the better. In the end, those 54 dead will have been a worthwhile sacrifice." As I grabbed for the door, the patient added, "You know, doctor, there's always a spot on that mothership for you as well." My conclusion: Patient 966 created this delusion to escape from reality. He couldn't face the tragic truth of his life. Instead of being a drug-abusing orphan, he rather chose to be an alien from another world, with a mission to save humanity. This delusion then spiraled completely out of control when people actually started to listen to him, believe his claims. This validated his fantasy after all, and fed his need for attention and admiration. My mission will thus be to somehow get Patient 966 to confront and accept his past, painful as it may be. For now, it's probably best to keep 966 isolated from the other patients. We don't want him recruiting more members for his club after all. That could potentially lead to a riot, and we have enough problems as it is. End recording.